Hi, this is James Scott, Born on the Bayou. In this episode, I'm going to be reviewing the game, or I should say games, Legends Untold, the Weeping Cave Novice Set, and the Great Sewer Novice Set. It is designed by Kevin Young and Hugh Ducker. It's ages 14 and up, 1 to 4 players. Takes about 69 minutes to play. Published by Inspiring Games. The I'm going to review them both at the same time because essentially these games are the exact same game but with different content. Whereas obviously this is you're exploring through the caves and this one you're exploring through the sewers. Now this is a fantastic game of soloable and up to 4 players. They do say you can go up to 8 with if you have both sets. But if you are something that you're looking at possibly getting, I would definitely encourage you getting the package because it this doubles this and adds that just that much more replayability. Plus, my favorite character to play, the druid, is in the other booster, and the alchemist. If you like doing some craft, adds a little crafting to the game and some more treasures, which is always great to have. This is a low fantasy, low level game. And I do mean low fantasy and low level. You are a very humble beginning, and your characters are, as you can tell by the cover, with very basic equipment. This is, do not expect to be throwing fireballs and having this plus 10 great sword. No, you're going to have an axe. That's probably about it. If you're lucky, you might find some candles. This game, as you can tell, is in this real small box. The game is mostly played with cards and dice. Don't let the size fool you. There is a lot of content in here and a lot of replayability. If you have the two do fit in the same box. You can put them all together in one box if you don't sleeve the cards. So this makes me when I travel for work. This is definitely one I always take. It's a fantastic game to play at the hotel soloable. I can't say that enough about how much I enjoy this game. It is fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and look at what you got. Well, for the rule book, don't let it intimidate you. It's a 60-page rule book, but there's a lot of content and really well laid out, telling you everything that comes with the game, setting you up, taking you step by step of setting up the game, recommendations at the beginning, all the turn sequences, and they take you through everything on the games. And towards the back, will tell you how to play solo. If you want, it'll also tell you how to adjust the difficulty and leveling up your characters, because this is, as you go through, you level up your characters. There is campaign mode. This game also has fantastic, I wish more games would have this, I guess you'd call it an adventure book. What it does is when you first start, first thing you do is you go ahead and set up a hero and set up a scenario like it says, and then it will take you through turn by turn everything on how the basics of the game is played. I really love this. It really gives you a good basics of the game and teaches you how the game is played step by step. I really love that. It's great job. I wish more games would do that. Towards the back is the campaign, how to do the campaign mode, all the different little extra stuff for the campaign. Also in here is on all the cards. If you look at the very bottom of the card, there is a code, and what it will do is this code down here will tell you what set it's from and what type of card it is, and they're numbered. So if you have to look up, or if you want to separate the cards back to the various basic sets, it can let you know what set it came from and looking up. Also, too, they go through each card and tell you every little bit about each of the different types of card, what each symbol means, what everything. I really can't say enough on how much I enjoy a game that sits there and took that time of explaining everything in the card. You just don't have to assume that symbol means that. They let you know that's what that icon means. Now, what do you do in the game? Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick your character. And like I said, it's low fantasy, basic beginning. So you're in the Weeping Cave. You're going to choose between the forge hand, the student, the farm hand, or the evicted noble. You have the male on one side, the female on the other side. And you have your starting weapon, a knife, and your stats. Now, these stats are very important. They do get used a lot throughout the game. Brawn, grace, handle, reason, will, and charm will get used throughout. So if you are in a party, I do definitely encourage you to have a variety. And as you can see, having the expansion or the other one, you would have 8 more characters. Plus, if you had the alchemist and druid, for a total of 10 different characters to choose from. So you'd have a lot more variety. After you pick your character, let's say we're going to pick with a forge hand, then you're going to go ahead and pick your weapon. Now, like I said, it is a very basic game, so your weapons are very basic. Your worn axe, spear, bow, etc. Now, eventually you can upgrade this from a worn axe to a, wait for it, an axe. That's about as good as it gets, folks. It is, again, very basic equipment. So these are your stats over here, which I'll explain to you in a little bit. So you got your weapon, and then you're going to be picking your skills. You have 2 types of skills. You have your weapon skills and your, I call knowledge skills. And your weapon skills are based off of the type of weapon, different weapons. So you may have in this one an axe can get, you have to use, have the same weapon. So I'm going to use the speed strikes, and you can split them up however you want. So that's another thing. And with the other set comes other skills, other weapon types. So you're going to be able to even have that much more choices from, and all the skills are different too. So I'm going to go ahead and take helping hands and say caving. Now you're going to pick 3 skills, but it can be any variety. I could have picked all skills and not have a weapon skill. I don't recommend. They like them. They say 1 weapon skill and 2 knowledge skills. Now, what I really enjoy about this game is the fact that your skills are your hit points. So it's really easy to track your hit points. As you use your skills, if I want to use this one, I want to use the flurry ability, I tap it, or they call it exhaust. That gets it. Now later when we rest up, it'll come undone. Now you can drain your ability, or when you take hit points, you are forced to drain ability. So now I only got 2 hit points left, and I can only use these 2 skills. Later, if I get healed, and now I'm back up to 3 hit points, and I got back up my 3 skills. This is great. I like this mechanic. It's really fun because later on you level up. Oh look, now I got 4 hit points. So I may have a skill. Oh, I want to get rid of. I get hit, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm probably not going to use this for a while, but I'm going to keep this one for the very last one. And now after you pick your character, now we're going to be picking our adventure. The basic game comes with 8 different adventures, and these are double-sided, so there's really 16 different ones. It will tell you your level that they recommend, what your starting area is, how to set it up. Now you got your 2 different ways. You got your basic and your advanced. You got your rules for that one. There's usually special rules, and then your goal for beating it. And this will tell you how each of your different decks. So on this one tells you go ahead and we set up this cave mouth as our opening location. and we let's say we go through and we set it up. Now, as we do stuff in this game, we do have a timer in this game, which is literally time. And in this one would say there were six here. One more. Now, I kind of like this. So it's not 6 turns. As you play, as you do different stuff, I'll explain in a minute, but you're going to be, we move, we spend 1 time. If we sneaked, we'd actually spend 2 time. And you keep going and you keep spending time until you get to the last card. When you go to spend this time, you actually flip it over, do the event, and put it on the side. Take these and put them back, and now you start spending. So as you can imagine, now the next event's going to be 1 turn sooner. That event goes off, and then we go back over. So it gets, and even when you run out of the card, the game isn't over. But there is certain rules that will affect the game. That'll tell you certain things you can and can't do when you don't have any time left. So as we are also going to have this little chart here, which is telling us our readiness, and of course I lost my little token to put on the chart, but there's here we go. Our little character here is our little token. Okay, we're on our location, and now we're going to decide who is the scout, who's the guard, and who's in the middle. As solo, obviously, you're all of them. But in multiplayer, you're going to decide who's going to be the scout. He's going to kind of decide how the party's moving and everything, and the guard is going to be in the back. Everybody else's will be in the middle. Don't think that just because the guard is going to be the guy always getting hit in the back and the guy in the front. They do a good job of splitting up who gets hit. So just don't think you're going to be hiding in the middle. Everybody's going to get smacked. Now, I will say the scout and guard do generally get smacked a little bit more than the middle group does, but don't think just hiding in the middle is going to do it. So one player's the scout and the guard. Now, as we go to pick a location, we go to leave. Now, as we leave, we're going to decide we have these different entrances or exits we're going to leave at, and we're going to decide if we're going to sneak or if we're going to leave normally. And if we leave normally, we just spend 1 time. If we leave sneaking, we spend 2 time. So a lot of times at the beginning, obviously you're probably just going to be wanting to go regular, and you flip over the top card and say we would decided to leave out this exit, and we will on the cards they have a bunch of different symbols. Don't worry, there are plenty of cards that explain all the iconology. They takes you through each step of the game. So these are fantastic. But what you will do is you'll look at the card and you'll see these little footsteps, and wherever you're exited at, you put it there. And now you can rotate this however you want. So you don't want to make sure in case you want to come back, you may end up being blocked or find a spot you may not go through. So you may not want to put it here so when the next one comes up, it'll block. So, okay, so we're leaving this area. We're going to go with this one because it has a extra little thing on there. And we look at this little half moon, and we're going to roll 3d6. Pretty much everything in this game is roll 3d6 and add your stat. And in this one, we are leaving. So we're going to look at this one here, and we're coming in on that. So we roll and we look at it, and that is a 12, and we needed a 9. Now, if we snuck, we get a +2. Why is this important? Well, on here in this readiness chart, you will see that you have at the top how we did. So we did 12, so we had a 3. We just missed it. So our characters are going to be here. So we are going to be bold. And this will come into play for the remainder of this room. So we're coming into here. Now we notice right here, is this barrier, or not barrier, it is a obstacle. This obstacle, we have our obstacle deck, so we flip our obstacle deck and see what we have to do. And now our obstacle, in order for us to get into this room, we have to pass this obstacle. And it will tell us here what type of trial you'll have to take. You roll your 3d6, add your skill to it. So if in this case here, this one hero must pass balance, grace, or probe, handle 1. So if I'm going to do grace, and I'm playing this character here, I have a grace of 2. So I would roll and see how I compare on this chart and whether or not I exceed in what I do. Now, some of these will say you must do as a party. Some are individual tests. Well, another nice thing is if you have some of them like this, I think it was like a waterfall one where you have to go across. If one player, what you're going to want to do is have your player that's the best at it go first, because if they roll crit, which is 3 or higher, they can actually automatically bring another player across before they test. So if you have somebody that only has a 1 in the skill, you may want to grab them and bring them across. Now, let's say we passed our barrier. We're in here. We look at our thing here, and it shows, okay, now we have an encounter. So we're going to have to go to our deck and go until we get to an encounter. And so we flip. There's a trap. There's an item. And then there's an encounter. So we're going to have this monster here. Now, we look at is before we flipped him, we also flipped a loot and a trap. Well, this loot will be part of him. If we defeat this monster, we're going to get that loot. The trap, well, the traps will say whether or not what happens. And if we look on our little chart here, what happens on traps, if we were careless, we would have triggered this trap, and in this case, the guard would have took 2 damage. But if you're bold or alert, you would not have taken anything. You wouldn't have triggered this. So this just gets discarded. And now we go on with combat with this creature. Again, it's going to be a 3d6 roll. You're going to be looking at your weapon. Your weapon's going to have a chart. Now, what's interesting about this game is you are actually going to be rolling. Most of the time, you're going to be rolling for the monster and you at the same time. This is you going into the combat with it. This will tell you, and melee, that little symbol is melee, that it has no effect on us. So you're just going to flat out roll, and you will see rolled a 12, and 12, this is what happens. And there's a symbol on the combat would tell you what each of these symbols mean. Yes, there is a lot of iconology on here, but you'll pick them up pretty fast. In this case, strike. I inflict damage on the target. So I do a point of damage to that guy. And depending on how many players you have, it will tell you how many of these creatures there are, and how many, if they get down to a certain level, how many they flee, how much health they have here, how much damage they do. It's a lot of information on these cards. Don't let it intimidate you. Once you start learning it gets very intuitive on a lot of it. Here's another example of what I say of stuff. This is a reward. This is loot. A broken crate. It is. Do not be expecting to find anything of big fantasy. You know, I don't even think of something that would. You're finding a warning note. You're finding candles. You're finding various different monsters. The artwork, as you can see, is fantastic. So you're let's say we kill the monster. You also have on your card, you see here, we'll say, oh, there's a barrier and there's a question mark in there, and so then you have barriers. You also on certain maps, so you have different barriers you're trying to get through. So you can try to bust through. In this case here, you can either charm your way or chorus your way through this defensive position. Other ones like a cave golem. There's all kinds of different barriers of trying to get through, and then going through and getting loot. Loot's along the same line. If you go to find loot, you're going to start flipping. Well, we already know about these, so you're going to we're going to look for loot. So no monster, they get ignored. You keep going. Exploration. There's events that happen, and I don't know where the loot is. So you keep going until you find the loot. As you can see, you may go for a while before you get to it. But every trap you came across, if you were careless, you set off all those traps. So it could be a lot. It's a neat mechanic. It's fun. Once you go through, you reset everything, and you just keep continuing. After you're done with that location, you're going to move into the next one again. So you may move it like this, and then you're moving on and. I don't know if this one's from that one's from the other set. So I got mixed up. I have mine all together, and as you're moving through, you're creating this map. So every time you're going through, you're going to be having a completely different map. You may have decided to come through this way and had a whole different one. So the variety and replayability is really fantastic, especially again if you combine the different sets together, that variety even increases exponentially, especially with the creatures, traps, and treasure. That's about it. I mean, it is a lot in these little boxes, and I try to keep this short. So, but it's hard. It's hard to explain a lot of what's in this game. So this is James Scott with Boar in the Bayou. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe below. Thank you.